I've been thinking a lot about DC Comics Teen Titans. Been thinking about what characters I like most, which ones I'd want to see on a team together, what stories I could make with these characters. And it had me thinking about all the characters that I've read every time I've seen them in a comic. And I wanted to put it in a tier list because why not? So this tier list compiles every character that I have personally read, excluding clones of characters. So there's no difference between Bart Allen, Kid Flash, and Bartor from the New 52, or Connor Kent, Superboy, and the Superboy from the New 52. It's just Connor Kent and it's Bart Allen. This list goes from the U's, which are the unrankable, to S, which are my personal favorites. All of these Titans are essentially ranked on a very flexible criteria. It's how much I like the character, where do I think that the writers could take them, if I think that they have storytelling potential, that's what I'm trying to say, how useful they are as a Titan or how powerful they are, and essentially their all-star power. How much of an iconic status do they have? So we'll just get right into it with the unrankables. These guys are unrankable not because they are bad characters, quite the opposite, but because each one of these have appeared as, shall we say, accessories to the team, but I don't think qualify as Titans. I don't like them as Titans. I think they work well as accomplices now and then, but you can stay away. So, some reading recommendations for Supergirl, Green Lantern, and Jason Todd would be Titans United. Quite a fun comic to read, although a little bit weird because it did essentially just take the characters from the TV show and shove them in a comic, which was interesting. I didn't see many of these characters working together as a team in a comic. The Hawk and Dove mixed with Connor Kent, Superboy, and Jason Todd was a little bizarre. It was enjoyable, I will say. Kyle Rayner did a really good job in the latter part of the Titans run. He just added a really fun dynamic to this team. I felt that there were parts where the team without him felt a little bit just janky, but adding Green Lantern, personally, I felt just rounded it out somehow. Lastly, we have Supergirl here appearing in the later stages of the 2000s run of the Teen Titans. Great run. Just perfect. F-tier characters. Okay, hear me out. F-tier are both like the worst ever, as well as characters that I think are finished. F for finished. You don't need to take them anywhere anymore. Tara Markov is like a character that served a concept and a story and has been explored in other narratives, but I think she's done. I think, at least in the comics, she's done. The one that appeared in Young Justice, a nice, interesting retelling of the character, or a reinterpretation of the character, shall we say. But at least in the comics, not interested in seeing her again. Marvin White, this guy, one of the Super Friends, appeared in a comic in the 2000s. He was there as like a housekeeper for the Titans Tower along with Wendy, and meets his fate. Argent, as well as many of the other 90s Titans, I'm going to say just not too super interested in. Risk. This guy has been gone for like a decade and a half. Got both his arms ripped off by Superboy Prime, comes back for one issue in a Nightwing comic, and drowns. Like, why did they bring him back? I don't understand. It was cool to see him. They even gave him this nice, like, revamped look. He looked fresh. And then they killed him. Bushido showed up and died. Panther showed up and died. Baby Wildebeest showed up and died. Thank goodness. I hate this guy. He was interesting or cool in the cartoon. I think just cool. But as a character in the comics, I just don't get it. Skitter, I don't know, is there. Skitter is there. Fairly forgettable. F for forgettable. Just kind of a weird character, but kind of added to the overall edge of the New 52 Teen Titans. So here we have Infinite Crisis, the event where many of these characters get maimed or killed, with Superboy Prime just looking majestic on that cover. Teen Titans from the New 52. This is like if I were 12 years old, I would probably really like this. It was like super edgy and a bit soapy at times, very dramatic. But I don't believe that anyone from this comic are friends. Like, they just don't feel like friends to me. Then this is where you'll find Marvin and Wendy if you want to know how Marvin meets his fate. And of course, Judas contract. This is the conclusion of Tara's story. Well, it's not. They did more with her character afterward. If you want to see the sort of the highlight where all the discourse around her character stems from, this comic. D tier characters. This is the cameo tier. These are the characters that, like, you bring them back for a couple issues and you do a little something with them. Zachary Zatara had a really cool side story, a second feature during the 2000s. Loved it, but doesn't feel like a all-star Teen Titan. He's like an accomplice for a couple episodes. With Wendy Harris, where Marvin, met his fate and they don't need to do anything with him. Wendy, they developed a little bit after that, and that was quite cool to see. Narc, I like Narc. At first I thought, like, Narc's so weird. He's so dumb. Why should I have him here? And then I read Titans Hunt, and I looked at all the other characters that I had to put on this list, and I was like, actually, you know what? Narc's not that bad. Dula Dent is like the perfect protagonist for a YA novel. If it's like baby's first YA novel on Wattpad, she feels like this fanfiction character where I take like the most powerful character here and the most powerful character here and have like a secret like love child, and they're so twisted and contorted and angsty. Danny the Street, weird character to have on the Titans, but I felt was utilized interestingly. So yeah, I like Danny as much as you could like a sentient, non-talking street. The Hawks, don't care for much. Jin, Solstice, similar sort of deal. Can't say I know much about them or really care for them much. So if they appear again, I'm like, oh, cool, it's them. And Freddie Freeman is at the bottom of this list, not because Freddie's a bad character. I like Freddie, but I don't really care for him much in the Titans. Bringing me to the recommendations, though, he does appear in like the Titans of the future. This is a good example of how and where they've used Captain Marvel Jr. or Captain Marvel 3 to great effect. Titans Hunt, fantastic book. I really enjoyed reading this one, and Narc was a character in it. It was good. And just like I talked about, this one had Zachary Zatara in it in a little second feature at the back of the book, very similar to classic X-Men, inserting a second feature after the reprinted giant size X-Men story. And this was the Coven of Three. It was good. C tier. All of these characters are cool. This is the cool tier. Here we have characters that I think could be really cool on the team, but also work as sort of their own sort of solo adventures. If you dedicated a couple issues to them being there on the team and them not being there, I wouldn't mind that much. Static in particular, I mean, he's his own guy. He's his own thing, but he has had a tenure on the Titans before, and I think would be welcome back if he wanted to do a little adventure. That would be fun. Bombshell, I don't know how people feel about Bombshell. I think that there's a lot of storytelling potential still there. She was a little bit of a flip-floppy character, just very angry. That was like her. That was the main character motif, is like she's angry at everyone. Sometimes she's on the team, sometimes she hates the team. Sometimes she's attacking this person, then she's over here. Red Arrow, this is Emiko Queen. She's here because she is cool, but I don't really know much about her. Other than she was a really good counterpart to Damien on his team. Mal Duncan, awesome character. I loved Mal in Titans Hunt, and I have seen him around, but again, just I haven't seen him as like a focus character. I don't see him as being an A-list character. I see him as being very well ingrained in the world of the Titans, very much a character that should be respected and brought in for stories at times, but I don't care particularly if he's not there for a bit. Hotspot gets on this spot because I like the cartoon, okay? The 2003 Hotspot was so cool. So much untapped story potential. If you want an original superhero, one who is a black, one who doesn't have lightning-based powers, if you care much about that trope, one who has roots in sci-fi, so we're talking like alien origins, has more like fantastical superpower things. So like he could do street level heroics, he could do out in outer space heroics, whatever you want to do with him. But I feel like Hotspot was a character that is criminally underutilized. He had his heyday of storytelling decades ago, but he could come back. Kid Eternity. I didn't really understand him on the first time he was in the Teen Titans, or at least that I saw him on the Teen Titans along with Blue Beetle and Red Devil. I felt he worked well with Blue Beetle and Red Devil. I didn't really understand his dynamic if it was like with Wonder Girl. He just didn't seem to fit that side of the Titans. But his single, oh my gosh, I'll save it for when I get into the recommendations, but he had a one-shot comic. It was really good. Dove 2, Steel 2, Tempest, Speedy, Flamebird, Red Star are all good characters, all interesting characters. They're better than D tier. They're cool to have around, but I don't really know much more to say than that. Recommendations here, we've got the Beast Boy solo run where they did reintroduce Flamebird. This was a good run. I liked this series. And Flamebird was a good character here. Like I was saying about Kid Eternity, this, if you're going to read anything with him in it, read this. It's a nice 24-page one-shot, one and done. You'll understand his character. You'll understand how good he is if you want to tell a sort of spooky, more noir, more detective type story. And then for if we're talking about Emiko, I would absolutely recommend, without a shadow of the doubt, Damian Wayne's Teen Titans. I know I said earlier that 12-year-old me would have liked or might have liked the Teen Titans from the New 52. I feel like a lot of stories that were coming out around 2012, 2013, and 2011 were, I know I did that all weird, 2012, 13, then back to 11, were all sort of edgy. You know, that was like Breaking Bad era of storytelling, but the post-edge of Marvel Ultimates. I would say that if you have a teenager in your life, like brother, sister, friend, or maybe your niece or nephew, and you want to get them into the Teen Titans, but don't know what to get them into, this book, perfect. It's so good. Wholly original cast of characters, and really work well with Damian in a way that I don't think the Rebirth team did. It was a good comic, but this one's better. And then, of course, here we have Kid Eternity, Bombshell, and Static all on a team. It was a good run. This is the B tier. I said that the C tier, everyone there was cool. Everyone here, I think, is a fantastic character. I'll just get into it. Bunker. The best thing to come out of the Teen Titans New 52 comics is Bunker. This guy is like oil to the machine of the Titans. He makes everything light. He makes everything fun. He makes everything wholesome. He's a great defensive character, great supporting character, great offensive character if you wanted to talk about like how he works in battle. But he also lends himself really well to the family dynamics of the Titan. I feel the same way about Wallace West. Wallace became his own character over time. You know, rocky start, but I really think he's come to his own, and I'm super comfortable with him as Kid Flash. I think he's a great character. He's written consistently as well in the Titans comics. At least I feel that way. Some characters, when you pass them along to different writers, can appear like night and day to each other. Wallace feels consistent, at least from 2016 onwards, I would say. Because that's what I've read of him, so I can't speak for anything else. Miss Martian, great character. Ravager, great character. Power Girl 2, criminally underutilized. She needs to come back. I want to see more of her. Aqualad, I admit, is like soft carried by Calderon from the Young Justice cartoon, but kind of similar to Bunker. I feel like he adds a lot to the family dynamic of the Teen Titans, especially when he was on the Rebirth team. Jericho, I like seeing him around. Same as Omen. I don't know much about Omen, I'm afraid, but they're interesting. It's nice to have a different empath, an empath other than Raven. Raven's a cool character, don't get me wrong, you know, one of the top. Robin, I don't think it's controversial to put him towards the lower end of the B tier. I say that because not every Robin is going to be A tier. Not every Robin is going to be S tier. And Damian, I think, is in a really comfortable spot here where he can be his own guy, but he's also had a really good run as a Robin to Bruce Wayne, but particularly as the Robin to Dick Grayson. Come on, that was such a good run. Oh. And in the Nightwing comic, Robin was around when Nightwing was with Defacer. Robin had a little bit there, and that was so good. That was so good. I loved that. The last three here, Roundhouse and Crush and Aquagirl. Roundhouse and Crush, again, part of Damian's team. Solid characters. Aquagirl, this is the second Aquagirl, Lorna Marquez, because I haven't read anything from the first Aquagirl. Can't remember her name. Tula, maybe, if it's the same as the cartoon. But Lorna Marquez was a really wholesome character, I felt. They added a lot to the dynamic of the team in the 2000s, and I felt had a really interesting arc, had a really interesting place to go. I would have liked to see more of her character. She had some good interactions with Static as well when he was on the team, so I would love to see more of her. Recommendations. So the Robin comic, really good, especially the one when he's on, is it Infinity Island or Lazarus Island? All I know is that he's beating people up, and that was pretty cool. Okay, so the latter part of the New 52 Teen Titans is where you will find Power Girl 2. She's a great part of this team. This version of the Teen Titans is just, I will say that it's not my favorite. I do like this visually more than the beginning of the New 52 Teen Titans. I think because the color isn't as red all the time. So there's a lot more color variation. But it does, unfortunately, just not entirely feel like the Titans because they still had to play off of the New 52 continuity. I feel like towards this stage they were trying to bring the characters back towards being more like their New Earth self. But it was still just, I don't know. I felt like it was rocky at times. Enjoyable, but I can't tell you anything that happened here, to be honest. Okay. And last two on the recommendations list. This is where you'll find some Miss Martian. She was a great asset to the Titans at this point. And like I said with Jackson Hyde, the Kalaram, Aqualad, in the Rebirth Teen Titans, he really hit his stride. I liked his introduction into the comics. I don't know much of what he did after that. I know he was like Aquaman for a little bit, actually. But at least in his introduction, I liked him. I felt he fit in really well. It's the A tier. Hey now, you're an all-star, guys. Every single one of you, all-stars. First one up, top of A tier is Cyborg for me. I think if we're talking about who is the best asset to the Titans, or who does more for them, at least in the version of the Titans that I see in my head. The version of the Titans that I see in my head have young heroes and older heroes. And I think Cyborg is a fantastic leader and a fantastic teacher, fantastic mentor. He's a great asset to the Justice League and to the Titans. And I just really like him. He is such a likable character. Had some great arcs in the cartoon. He's even funny at times in Teen Titans Go. Shoot me, I know. But I kind of like Teen Titans Go. I think Cyborg is just consistently great. Donna Troy is iconic. I feel like Donna Troy just deserves to be in this spot. Nightwing, I didn't put above Donna Troy simply for one reason. And that is because he doesn't need to be a Titan. I get it. He's like the founder. He's the first Robin. He's the one who is like the face of the Titans. And certainly from the most recent DC initiatives, Nightwing is this really big character. And I agree. Nightwing's huge. Nightwing is huge. But he's huge. But Nightwing is a character that works well on his own. And he did that for the late 2000s, right on through the 2010s. I mean, he did work with the Bat family a lot, but he wasn't really part of the Titans because the New 52. But then when they brought him back with Rebirth and made him part of the Titans, really great run there. Really good character. I mean, he's awesome. He's great. I just saying he doesn't need to be a Titan. Probably not anymore. He's like Steve from Blue's Clues. Steve can come in now and then, you know? And it's always a treat. It's always a treat when he's there. Impulse, I love Bart Allen. Cassie Sandsmark is a great character. They did her dirty in the New 52. That character was over-sexualized. And I hated it. Like, the first time you meet her, it's like, oh my gosh, her legs. And I'm not saying that as the reader. I'm like reading the dialogue. I'm reading the character's thoughts. Like, the first time she meets like Tim Drake, it's like, oh, she's so hot, but I can't tell her that. No way. And the first time she meets Superboy, like the inner monologue is like, oh my gosh, she's so hot. And she's like supposed to be super feisty and fiery, which is, I don't know. I feel like Wonder Girl's character has flip-flopped a lot between writers. Like her initial character in Young Justice to then in the Teen Titans and to now. I feel like she has really flip-flopped. But I think when Wonder Girl works, she works. And might be sort of carried by my bias here for the Jeff Johns run of the Teen Titans, that she, Superboy, Impulse, and Robin are inseparable. In fact, I know that probably due to the cartoons, the 2003 one and Teen Titans Go, I know that the Dick Grayson, Coriandar, Garfield Logan, Vic Stone, and Raven combo is probably seen as like, oh yeah, that's the Teen Titans. Those are the guys. Those are the all-stars. But for me, Superboy, Impulse, Wonder Girl, and Tim Drake Robin, those are more the Teen Titans now, at least to me, than those guys were. They were great as a cartoon, great show, and in the comics they're fantastic. But in the comics it's a totally different dynamic. Blue Beetle, Jaime Reyes, he belongs in A tier. What can I say? Starfire, same thing. Bumblebee, my gosh, Bumblebee is awesome. Arsenal, I love Arsenal. Arsenal is also fantastic in every cartoon that he's shown up in. Every single one. He's a great character. And then Connor Kent, Superboy, making up the bottom of A tier. The bottom of A tier is not a bad place to be. Come on. It's great. But I just don't think I love him as much as some of these others. Now, recommendations. I already mentioned it. I've talked about it so much. Jeff Johns' Teen Titans. Read it. This run, I don't know. It just had everything that I wanted. You have the older Titans mentoring newer Titans after they come out of Young Justice. And you don't even have to read Young Justice to get into this. But it starts out with immediate action and threat. There's some great drama. Fantastic dynamics between all the characters. My gosh, the relationship between Tim Drake and Connor and Cassie and Bart is so earnest. And this is what I'm talking about. With the New 52, I didn't believe that any of them liked each other, that they could stand each other. It was just like, we're superheroes and we do superhero things together and we're all cool. But these guys felt like they had lives outside of being superheroes. I mean, Tim Drake, especially during this era, had a life. He had a lot going on during this era. And they just all complemented each other so well. I don't know. I could just gush about this book. Young Justice, I read a little bit about, should say, this is the Wonder Comics Young Justice, not the original Young Justice from the 2000s. I read a bit of it, and it was fun to see people back together And it was also interesting, like the other characters that they introduced here. I think it was the Kid Lantern and Ginny Hex, I think it was, and the Gemstone lady in the back. I don't know, Steven Universe Light. A little bit different, but this is a fantastic comic. Red Hood Arsenal, Red Hood Outlaws. It's it can be rocky, but it's really pulpy. If you're into like fantastic action, things that are bombastic, and yeah, I will say in the earlier issues, a lot of the female characters are hypersexualized. I know for me, like I don't see myself going back and reading them for that reason. You could watch the Comic Historian video all about Red Hood Outlaws and get the gist from that. Oh, rest in peace. But yeah, Comic Historian did a great job getting all that together. A lot of the characters I already mentioned, like Donna Troy, I mentioned Arsenal here, I mentioned Bumblebee, I mentioned Nightwing. They're all part of this Titans run, and it was a good run. It was a really good run. It was a wholesome run. I just felt, I guess after the New 52, it was healing. And that brings us to the S tier. This tier is super biased, as you will see. Red Devil, I think, is one of the best characters. He had such heart to him. Like, for the exact same reasons I love Bunker and then dial it up to an 11. He had a really great story with Zachary Zatara and was a hero through and through. He had a lot of earnest moments, a lot of heartfelt moments, and was just awesome on the field. Raven, S tier, was there any doubt? She's a character that has evolved so much from having her sort of pacifist origin to becoming sort of like a mall goth, I'm going to say. It's been a somewhat of a bumpy ride in terms of characterization at times. She has the sort of like icon power. Tim Drake, square in the middle. He's in the middle because Beast Boy and Wally West are like my favorites. But I put Tim Drake Robin up at the top, and you can fight me on this, because Tim Drake is the best Robin. This guy just embodies it so well. And he had such vulnerability and anger to him at times, but a lot of compassion, a lot of kindness, a lot of fun. I mean, he had some of the best parts of Dick Grayson and some of the best parts of Bruce Wayne, as well as having his own family, his own side, his own like cast of characters on the side. And for the purpose of this list, where part of the criteria is how well do they work as a Titan, Tim Drake is inseparable from the Titans in my eyes. I know they needed to give Damian his limelight, and he's done fantastically. But I feel like Tim, along with the others that I'd mentioned, Wonder Girl, Superboy, and Impulse, you put those four together, you have just a winning ensemble. Throw in a couple B and C characters as well, and it's a fun time. I love Beast Boy. I'm loving that in the recent comics, especially as highlighted by the channel Dan Explains. Thank you, Dan. You're great. Beast Boy has really hit his stride, and I feel like he still has so much more potential that some of the other Titans simply do not. Now, top pick, Wally West, I think, became the greatest of any of the Titans. He just became something incredible. For me, he's almost as just great and as inspirational, if not more. No, I would say as great. We got ahead of myself. As Superman. Reading recommendations for you. This was Teen Titans issue 37. And my gosh, like I said before, it's part of the Jeff Johns run, which I really enjoyed. Red Devil is just an incredible character. He's great. Raven, Daughter of Darkness is a series that I have not yet read. Raven makes it to the top, like part of the top of this list based on comics I have read. And I'm sort of like, I'm adding this for myself. I'm like, hey, I should probably read this. Identity Theft Teen Titans. This one had some real emotional high points. And now maybe an unexpected one. This is Teen Titans Go. Not Teen Titans Go. If you love the cartoon, you will love these. Also, I would argue that these built off the Beast Boy Raven romance a little bit more convincingly than the mainline comics did. But they're also, I like Raven and Beast Boy together. What can I say? I cried. This one is where we see Wally West return. I will say that if you're going to read this comic, it is meant to be an initiative launch. And so there will be a few characters you'll see here, such as Johnny Thunder, not to be confused with the fantastic Lego Adventurers line character Johnny Thunder, but the DC comic character Johnny Thunder. So there will be other characters you'll see in this comic who you might think, who is that? What are they doing here? But the real focus of this one is Wally. And then finally, the current run of Titans. Oh, I say current. As of making this list, it was current. I made this list a little while ago, and I'm just filming it now. But I think Tom Taylor has finished his run on the Titans. So this is no longer current. But I mean, this is great. This is great. It takes what really works from the Rebirth Titans and some of the memorable faces of the cartoon and what works from the Jeff Johns comics and some of the just fantastic dynamics that can be melded from the past version of the Titans back in the 2000s before Arsenal lost his arm. And it all comes together in this beautiful melting pot. It's amazing. And there you have it. That's my finished tier list for anyone who's interested. Thank you for sticking around this long. If you cared to, videos here are super casual. Can't say I really try that much. I just do what I like. So if you did enjoy this, feel free to like and subscribe, comment. I'd love to talk about your favorite characters, the things you like, and what you'd like to see more from Titans, or some of your fan groupings. I don't know. Just like any sort of discourse would be fun. I'm not thinking this video is going to do any numbers anytime soon. But it was good to do. So I appreciate you. Hope you have a fantastic, fantastic day or afternoon or evening. It was a good afternoon, good evening, and good night.